first sound was the soft growl of an old engine trying to breathe again. It was a cool Sunday morning, the kind that smells like wet grass and gasoline. Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead, leaning over the hood of the old Rolls Royce Silver Shadow. The car had been sitting in his late father's garage for over 10 years, silent, covered in dust, and filled with memories that refused to die. "Come on, old girl," he whispered. "Don't give up on me now." He turned the wrench again. The engine coughed. Then a spark, a trembling rumble. The car roared to life just for a moment, before stalling again. And Ethan smiled like a kid seeing fireworks for the first time. That sound wasn't just an engine, it was his father's voice echoing through time. The man who taught him how to hold a wrench, how to fix things when life fell apart, and how to never, ever let go of a dream. Ethan had been working on that car every weekend since his dad passed. It wasn't about showing off. It was about finishing something they started together. But not everyone saw it that way. Across the manicured lawns of Maple Lake Estates, one pair of eyes watched every move he made. Karen Whitmore, president of the HOA, queen of complaints, and a woman who believed beauty was measured in silence, symmetry, and perfectly trimmed hedges. She didn't like noise. She didn't like oil stains. And she definitely didn't like Ethan's 1970s. Rolls Royce parked on his own front yard. At first it started small, sticky notes on his mailbox. "Please move your car, it's lowering property values. HOA regulations prohibit vehicle repair outside your garage." Ethan ignored them. He had no garage big enough for the car. And besides, he was doing no harm. Until one morning, Karen marched up the driveway, her heels clicking like a ticking bomb. Karen. "Excuse me, are you even aware of how illegal this is?" Ethan sighing. "Good morning to you too, Karen." Karen. "Don't get smart with me. You can't turn your yard into a mechanic shop. This is a respectable neighborhood." Ethan. "I'm just fixing my car." "My dad's car." Karen. "Well, do it somewhere else. Some of us work hard to keep this neighborhood decent." Ethan looked up from his tools, oil-stained hands gripping a wrench. Ethan. "You call it noise. I call it family." Karen's eyes narrowed. She didn't understand. People like her never did. To her, everything was about control. To Ethan, everything was about keeping something alive, something that meant more than rules and appearances. She left fuming. But Ethan didn't think much of it. Until 2 days later, when the flashing red and blue lights appeared on his lawn. Cinematic transition, building tension. The neighbors peeked through their curtains. Children whispered. And Ethan stood frozen, wrench still in hand, as a police cruiser rolled up beside the car. 2 officers stepped out. One younger, one older. Calm faces, professional tone. "Officer Barnes." "Sir, we received a call about a disturbance." Ethan. "A disturbance? I'm just fixing my car." Officer Barnes. "The complaint says you're violating HOA and noise ordinances." Ethan laughed softly. "Are you serious? I'm just trying to make an old engine run." Before the officer could respond, Karen appeared from behind her porch, arms crossed, lips twisted in triumph. "Karen, there. That's him. He's been making noise all week, oil leaking everywhere. My property value's dropping by the minute." The officer turned to her politely. Officer Barnes. "Ma'am, please stay back. We'll handle it." But Karen wasn't done. Karen. "He's been warned. He's turning our beautiful neighborhood into a junkyard." Ethan took a deep breath. His patience and pride were both wearing thin. Ethan. "Look, officer. This car belonged to my dad. He passed away last year. I'm just finishing what he started. I'm not running a business. I'm not disturbing anyone. I'm just..." Karen. "Making noise and breaking the rules." The engine suddenly sputtered again. Vroom, vroom. Almost as if the car was defending its owner. A small crowd had gathered now. And then something unexpected happened. The older officer, a man named Lieutenant Davis, walked slowly toward the car. His expression softened. "Lord Davis, is that a 76 Silver Shadow?" Ethan. "Yeah. You know it?" Lieutenant Davis, smiling. "My father had one. Used to take me for drives every Sunday. I haven't heard that engine sound in years." Karen's face dropped. Karen. "Officer, this isn't about nostalgia." "He's violating the rules!" Lieutenant Davis, gently. "Ma'am, sometimes life's about more than rules." Ethan blinked, a little shocked. Someone finally understood. Ethan, I just want to finish it. Once it runs, I'll move it back. I promise. Lieutenant Davis, take your time, son. Just keep it safe and quiet as best you can. The officers left. Karen fumed silently, her face red as the brake lights fading down the street. Ethan stood there for a moment, heart pounding, surrounded by silence and stares. He knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the kind of person who gave up after losing once, and deep down, Ethan felt it. This was just the beginning of a neighborhood, war that would test everything his father taught him about patience, respect, and standing your ground. He turned back to the car, hand resting on the hood. Ethan, softly. Guess it's you and me against the world now, old girl. The Rolls Royce sat still, elegant, timeless, defiant. But in that quiet driveway, under the weight of a perfect suburban sunset, Ethan had no idea how far this fight would get. The morning after the police visit, Ethan woke up to the sound of a leaf blower somewhere down the street. But that wasn't what made his stomach twist. It was the letter taped to his front door. A white envelope. Neat handwriting. HOA logo printed at the top. He didn't even have to open it to know who it was from. Notice of violation. Unauthorized vehicle activity. He read it twice, jaw tightening with every word. They wanted him to pay $250 in fines for vehicle restoration outside of enclosed space. He laughed bitterly. $250 for trying to fix my dad's car? He crumpled the letter in his hand and threw it onto the passenger seat of the Rolls Royce. The car still wasn't running right. The engine would start, but it stalled again after a few minutes. He'd been working on it for months, piece by piece, paycheck by paycheck. Now this. That afternoon, Ethan drove his pickup to the hardware store for a few parts. When he came back, Karen was already there, standing in his yard, arms crossed, her phone in one hand and a smug smile on her face. Karen, you got my letter, I hope. Ethan, yeah, I got it. Real thoughtful of you. Karen, this neighborhood has standards. Ethan, you can't just do whatever you want because you're sentimental. Ethan, it's not about being sentimental. It's about finishing something my dad started. Karen, well, maybe your dad should have taught you to follow rules, too. That one hit him right in the chest. His jaw clenched. Ethan, you don't talk about my dad. Karen, then move that car or I'll have it towed. Simple as that. And just like that, she turned and walked away, heels clicking like a judge's gavel. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat on the hood of the car, a cold soda in hand, staring at the stars. He remembered sitting there years ago as a kid, next to his dad, listening to the hum of that same engine, the smell of motor oil in the air, his dad's voice saying, "Someday this car will be yours, son. But don't just drive it, take care of it. It's a piece of our story." Now that story was being threatened by a woman who cared more about appearances than people. He decided he wasn't giving up. The next morning, Ethan got up early. He washed the car, buffed the chrome, and put up a small sign in front of his lawn that read, "Work in progress, please respect." By noon, Karen was back, this time with 2 other HOA members. A man in a suit holding a clipboard, and another with a camera taking pictures. Ethan, are you serious? Pictures now? Karen, we're documenting ongoing violations. Ethan, violations? It's my property! Man with clipboard. You're in a regulated community, sir. All residents agreed to the bylaws. Ethan, I didn't agree to being bullied. Karen smirked. Karen, this is not bullying. It's order. Maybe you should learn the difference. Ethan could feel his hands shaking. His father always told him, don't fight anger with anger. Fix what you can, ignore what you can't. So he turned away, grabbed his wrench, and went back to work. But that's when the sound came. The sharp click of a camera right behind him. Ethan, you can't take pictures of me without permission. Karen, I can when you're breaking HOA rules. He'd had enough. Ethan, Karen, you spend so much time policing everyone else's life, maybe you should look at your own. For a split second, her mask slipped. Her smile faded. Her eyes hardened. Karen, be careful, Ethan. You have no idea who you're dealing with. And she walked off again, this time slower, like she knew she'd already set something in motion. Tension rising, cinematic pacing. 2 days later, Ethan came home from work to find a bright orange sticker slapped on the Rolls Royce windshield. Final notice, vehicle subject to tow. And underneath it, in neat handwriting, "You were warned." KW. He ripped it off, heart pounding. This wasn't just about the car anymore. This was about control, about pride, about being silenced in his own home. He called the HOA office, but they told him the same thing. "You have 48 hours to move the vehicle, or it will be removed at your expense." Ethan hung up, chest tight. He sat in the driver's seat, ran his hands over the steering wheel and whispered, "Dad, what do I do now?" And then, as if the car could hear him, the engine clicked, once, twice. Then it roared to life. The sound filled the air, deep and beautiful. It was working. Finally, after all those months, he smiled. For the first time in a long time, he felt proud. But that moment didn't last, because 5 minutes later, a police siren wailed down the street. The same officer from before, Lieutenant Davis, stepped out. His expression wasn't angry and just tired. "Lieutenant Davis. Ethan, we got another call." Ethan, "Let me guess. Karen again?" Said Davis. "Yeah, said you were disturbing the peace." Ethan laughed softly. "She must have me on speed dial." The officer sighed, glancing at the car. Then Davis, "Listen, I know you're not doing anything wrong, but she's filing formal complaints now. If this keeps going, the HOA can request a tow with city approval." Ethan's smile faded. "Ethan, you mean she can actually take my dad's car away?" Lelter Davis, "If it's considered a code violation, yeah." "I'm sorry, son." Ethan looked down at his hands, covered in oil, shaking. He felt powerless. Karen stood at the edge of her yard, phone in hand, pretending not to listen, but her smirk said it all. Ethan, quietly, "This isn't about rules anymore. This is personal." Lieutenant Davis, "Then make it worth something. Keep your cool and fight the right way." The officer left, and Ethan stood there in the glow of his driveway light, staring at the car that held every memory he refused to lose. He walked inside, grabbed his father's old photo from the mantel, and whispered, "Dad, I'm not letting her win. Not this time." He pulled out his laptop and started typing. Not an angry email, but a petition. A movement to protect personal property rights in their community. By midnight, he'd posted it online. By morning, over 50 neighbors had signed. Some had even left messages like, "We're tired of Karen's control. Ethan's right, we should be able to live freely." And just like that, the tide began to turn. But Karen wasn't finished. When she realized Ethan had gone public, she went too far, something that would not only risk Ethan's car, but his future in the neighborhood. And what happened next would change everything. The morning sun cut through the fog like a slow burn over Maple Lake Estates. Birds were singing, sprinklers were humming, and yet, for Ethan, it felt like the calm before a storm. He hadn't slept all night. The petition had exploded overnight. More than 200 signatures. Neighbors he barely knew were messaging him, saying things like, "We've had enough of her rules. You stood up for all of us." For the first time in months, Ethan didn't feel alone. But deep down, he knew Karen wouldn't go down quietly. She never did. At 9:17 a.m., the rumble of an engine broke the silence. But it wasn't his Rolls Royce this time. It was a tow truck. Bright yellow, big, loud. And behind it, Karen Whitmore. Clipboard in hand, lips tight, eyes full of victory. Ethan ran outside barefoot, still wearing the same jeans from last night. Ethan, "What the hell is this?" Karen, "The HOA board voted. You ignored multiple warnings. Your car is being removed today." Ethan, "You can't do that. It's mine. It's on my property." Karen, "You forfeited that right when you ignored the bylaws. Actions have consequences, Ethan." The tow truck driver looked uncomfortable, but he was just doing his job. He started backing up toward the car. The beeping echoed down the street like a countdown to heartbreak. Ethan's chest tightened. He stood in front of the Rolls Royce, spreading his arms wide. "Ethan, you're not taking this car." "Not while I'm standing here." Karen rolled her eyes. "Karen, you're being ridiculous." "Move, or I'll call the police again." "Ethan, go ahead." She smirked, thinking she'd won again. Within minutes, 2 squad cars pulled up, and once again, Lieutenant Davis stepped out. But this time, his face was different, serious, focused. Lieutenant Davis, "What's going on, Karen?" Karen. He's obstructing an HOA authorized tow. He's violating Community Code 4B, Section... Leopard Davis. Enough with the codes. I asked what's going on. Ethan's voice cracked as he explained. Ethan, they're trying to take my dad's car. I didn't break any law. I'm not disturbing anyone. I just wanted to finish what he started. The officer looked from Ethan to Karen, then slowly to the tow truck driver. Davis. Sir, do you have city authorization for this tow? Tow driver and hesitant. I was told it's HOA approved. Didn't see a city permit. Leotier Davis. Then you're not towing anything. Karen's face went pale. Karen. What? You can't just... On Davis. Ma'am, HOA rules don't override state property laws. You try to touch that car again and you'll be the one in violation. The crowd that had gathered started whispering. Phones were recording. A few people even clapped. Karen's lips trembles. Karen. You're making a mistake, officer. Letter Davis. No, ma'am. The mistake was thinking you could bully people in the name of order. Ethan felt something inside him loosen, like a knot finally untied after months of tension. Karen stormed off, muttering under her breath. The tow truck drove away. The crowd slowly dispersed. Ethan leaned against the car, tears building behind his eyes. Ethan. Thank you, officer. I didn't know what else to do. Lieutenant Davis, you did the right thing. You stood up. That's more than most people ever do. He paused, looking at the car. Lieutenant Davis, you know, my dad used to tell me, a man who honors his past never truly loses it. Finish what you started, son. Cinematic transition, from conflict to redemption. Over the next few weeks, something incredible happened. Ethan's petition turned into a community movement. People began showing up on weekends, helping him clean, repair, and restore the car. An older neighbor named Mr. Jenkins, who'd been a mechanic in the Navy, helped rebuild the carburetor. A teenage boy down the street painted the fenders. Even Mrs. Alvarez, who never talked much, brought him lemonade and said, "Your dad would be proud." And through it all, the engine grew stronger, smoother, alive. Karen. She tried to push back again, but by then, the neighborhood board had voted her out of presidency. Turns out, Ethan's story had reminded everyone what community was supposed to mean. Final emotional scene. A month later, Ethan stood in his driveway under a warm golden sunset. The car gleamed like it had back in 1976. Silver blue paint catching the light, the chrome shining like a mirror. He turned the key. The engine purred, steady, powerful, alive. He smiled, tears in his eyes. Ethan softly. We did it, Dad. He looked up at the sky, maybe for a sign, maybe just to say thanks, and for a moment, he swore he could almost hear his father's voice in the hum of the engine. He got in, rolled down the window, and waved to the neighbors who'd gathered around to watch. Ethan. Anyone up for a ride? Laughter broke out. People cheered. The car rolled down the street, sunlight bouncing off its hood like something out of a dream. And Karen? She stood on her porch watching, silent, expression unreadable. For the first time, even she seemed small, because Ethan had done something bigger than fixing a car. He'd rebuilt a sense of belonging, and reminded everyone that sometimes, standing up for what's right is the loudest engine you'll ever start. If you've ever been judged for chasing a dream, keep going. The world will always have Karens, but it'll also have people who believe in you. Don't let anyone tow your purpose away, because the moment you stop fighting for what matters is the moment you stop living your story.